Hello and welcome back to Euro Football Daily, where today we're running down the top 10 worst transfer windows so far in Europe. Let's get started. 10. Villarreal. In recent seasons, Villarreal have become accustomed to challenging for the European spots, having finished in the top 6 every season between 2013 and 2018. Last season, though, saw them battle relegation and ultimately finish a lowly 14th. And it's taken its toll on their transfer window, as they've seen their brightest talent leave and kept spending to a minimum. Pablo Fornal saw his modest release clause of £25 million activated by West Ham, and the Yellow Submarine spent little over £1 million in bringing in as a replacement, sporting Gijón's Moy Gomez. The 25-year-old spent last season on loan at relegated Huesca, scoring 2 and setting up a further 5, and even exceeded Fornal's in key passes, with 1.4 compared to 1.3 for the new Londoner. However, beyond that, head coach Javier Calleja has done little of note, with 33-year-old Raul Albiol the big name through the door as it stands. This means they're likely going to have to rely on Santi Cazorla to be the main creative output, whilst hoping Carl Toko Ekambi and Samuel Chukwueze step up in their second La Liga seasons. 9. Barcelona. A controversial inclusion here from a member of the team, I won't tell you who, James Wayne, but let's get started. Gone are the days of smart transfer dealings at Barcelona. In reality, they haven't been around for about a decade. And with every transfer window, supporters get more and more perplexed as to their methodology. Sure, Frankie de Jong is a superb signing, with the Blaugrana paying €75 million for a player that will start for at least the next decade, but the rest of their business, not so much. Antoine Griezmann joined for over £100 million, putting him in direct competition and likely to beat fellow 9-figure signings Philippe Coutinho and Ousmane Dembele. That's an awful lot of money to be sat on the bench. But then there's rumours circulating that both of those names will be included in a deal to sign PSG's Neymar, which continues to make very little sense. And that's not just it. There's no one suitable backing up Jordi Alba in the left-back spot, whilst the opposite flank has also been a cause for concern in recent seasons too. Barcelona have had an easy time of it recently, winning 4 of the last 5 La Liga crowns. But if they don't invest in their future throughout the pitch the same way that Real Madrid have, their Clásico counterparts could take the lead in coming seasons. 8. Schalke. As it stands, Schalke are looking like they are more likely to repeat the 2018-19 battle against relegation instead of their 2017-18 campaign, where they finished as best of the rest behind Bayern Munich. Last season, their biggest issue was goal scoring, finding the net the least of all sides to remain in the Bundesliga, yet it's not an area they've looked to address. In fact, the only sale for money they've made is striker Breel Mbolo to Borussia Mönchengladbach, further reducing their established attacking options, although they'll hope the acquisition of Düsseldorf's Benito Raban, who is predominantly a winger but scored 10 last season, will provide an outlet. They have also signed Everton's John Joe Kenny on loan, who has made just 40 senior appearances since his breakthrough in 2015. And the decision to loan out #1 goalkeeper Ralph Farman to Premier League newcomers Norwich is also an interesting one, with the inexperienced but highly rated Alexander Nubel set to step in between the sticks. You'd have thought last season would have been a warning to the Schalke management, but they're certainly in no rush to address the errors from that underwhelming campaign. 7. Lyon. Before we move on to our next section, please remember to subscribe to Euro Football Daily and hit that notification bell to never miss a video. Lyon are yet another example of a club that has seen big talent leave their ranks, but there's question marks hanging over those who have come in to replace them. Fundamentally, the side have lost 3 of their best creators in Tanguy Ndombele, Ferland Mendy and Nabil Fekir, whilst their best player from the last 2 campaigns, Memphis Depay, still has an unclear future. All 4 of them rank in the top 4 for dribbles per 90 at Lyon last season, and all in the top 5 for key passes a game as well, between contributing to almost half the assists provided for the club in the league last season. Lille's Thiago Mendes at £20 million is the direct replacement for Ndombele, but is already 27 and puts up worse numbers than the Frenchman. Meanwhile, left-back Youssouf Kone, also from Lille, has output about half that of Mendy, despite featuring for a side that finished higher in the league. Lyon did, however, pick up defender Joachim Andersen, highly sought after by Spurs, for just £21 million. But regardless, head coach Silvino has a tough job trying to emulate his predecessor in his first job in management. 6. AC Milan. Now, AC Milan are in a very unique position. Despite finishing 5th last season, the Rossoneri will not compete continentally after being excluded from the Europa League for breaching FFP. So, naturally, they have to be more reserved in the transfer market. However, that doesn't mean they couldn't have done a better job than they have. The only signing they've made so far is that of Real Madrid's Theo Hernandez for just over £20 million, with the left-back providing competition for a lacklustre Ricardo Rodriguez. Frank Kessier's loan became permanent as it was obliged to, but beyond that their squad looks largely similar to the one that ended last campaign. Of course, in typical Milan fashion, they've let talented youngster Manuel Locatelli leave for Sassuolo for just £9 million, despite featuring heavily over the previous 2 seasons. This year saw an ideal opportunity for the club to rebuild without having to worry about maintaining a European campaign, but it looks like they're going to miss out on the chance to capitalise. 5. PSG. As their wait for that maiden Champions League trophy goes on, PSG's transfer policy comes under more and more scrutiny. This summer seems to have signalled a change in the way they do their dealings, but as we approach the end of the window, many questions remain. They finally bulked out of their midfield, but at what cost? Ander Herrera's come in on a free but is already 29, whilst PSG are expected to sign Everton's Idrissa Gueye for close to €30 million. There doesn't seem to be a long-term plan from Thomas Tuchel and co. Further evidence when the release of Dani Alves left Thomas Meunier as the only right-back with any worthwhile experience. Pablo Sarabia joined from Sevilla for a modest sum, but they could have kept hold of Giovanni Lo Celso, who has the makings of a PSG-style superstar. Instead, he was loaned out and eventually sold, whilst the equally talented Adrien Rabiot has left to join Juventus on a free. And don't even get us started on the Neymar saga again. They'll cruise to the Ligue 1 title as per, but will probably fall short in Europe again. 4. Hoffenheim. Hoffenheim have established a reputation in recent years as a side that can consistently challenge for the European spots in the Bundesliga. However, if their transfer window continues as it has done so far, they'll find it tough to climb back up the table following a disappointing 9th place finish last season, despite scoring more goals than every team except Bayern and Dortmund. They have sold 3 of their best players from last campaign. Midfielder Demirbay and fullback Schultz have moved to league rivals Leverkusen and Dortmund respectively for around £30 million each. Meanwhile, Joe Linton, their 22-year-old forward, who is expected to lead the line this season, has got his dream Premier League move, albeit to Steve Bruce's Newcastle United. Add to that the loss of their head coach Julian Nagelsmann, now heading up RB Leipzig, and the key man will be very different for Hoffenheim come August 16th. But it's unlikely it'll be any of the players they've signed. 3 of the 4 ins have been picked up from the German second tier, whilst the 4th played less than 1,000 Bundesliga minutes in 18-19. It's looking like a long 9 months ahead for the club. 3. Atletico Madrid. So far this summer, Atletico Madrid's transfer dealings have topped £500 million, with just over half that being money that has come in. So on the face of it, it actually seems like a productive window. But productivity doesn't always equate to success. Starting with those to leave the Wanda Metropolitano, 3 key players saw their release clauses activated. Antoine Griezmann moved on to La Liga rivals Barcelona for £108 million, Bayern picked up Lucas Hernandez for £72 million, whilst Rodri was signed by Manchester City for an almost reasonable £63 million. On top of that, the other 3 members of their back 4, Felipe Luis, Diego Godin and Juanfran, all also left the club. And the ins haven't inspired confidence in the footballing world. Firstly, you have the £113 million acquisition of João Felix, who, while supremely talented, has just 6 months of regular first-team action under his belt. A 28-year-old Kieran Trippier and 30-year-old Felipe are 2 of his defensive replacements, whilst 21-year-old left-back Renan Lodi has been shipped in from Brazil. Mario Hermoso and Marcos Llorente seem astute signings, but their new club will probably be more concerned with qualifying for the Champions League instead of a title challenge. But we'll temper this with the fact that they did beat their arch-rivals Real Madrid 7-3 in pre-season, and it looks like Diego Costa may be coming back to form. 2. Lazio. Traditionally one of Italy's big clubs, Lazio have only featured in the Champions League 3 times in the last 15 years, and it looks like it's going to be a big ask for them to improve on their 8th place finish from last campaign. There have been a few ins and outs at the Stadio Olimpico, but nothing to get the Biancocelesti's fans going. Manuel Azzari, a winger from Spal, and Denis Vavro, formerly a Copenhagen centre-back, are the only signings of note. Lazzari is both a better dribbler and passer than Adam Masaric, who provided just 2 goal contributions from right midfield last campaign. Vavro, meanwhile, will likely start in Simeone Inzaghi's preferred 3 at the back system. But these don't cover up bigger flaws in the side. Ciro Immobile is soon to enter his 30s, and Felipe Caicedo hasn't been consistent enough to provide him relief, whilst the speculation around Sergej Milinkovic-Savic continues. And with fresh rumours linking him with a move to Man United, Lazio would struggle to replace their influence of their best player for the last 2 seasons. If the 2019 Serie A Midfielder of the Year goes, it truly would be a disastrous window. 1. Eintracht Frankfurt. As you probably well know by now, Frankfurt's attacking triumvirate of Sebastian Haller, Luka Jovic and Ante Rebic scored 41 of the side's 60 Bundesliga goals last season. 2 of those 3 have, however, moved on to pastures new, with the highly sought-after Jovic eventually transferring to Real Madrid, whilst Haller became West Ham's record signing after the East London club paid £45 million for the Frenchman. As it stands, the Adler have just 2 strikers on their books to help Rebic. There's 24-year-old Gonzalo Paciencia, who found the net 3 times in 388 Bundesliga minutes but did miss over 20 games last campaign due to injury. The only other striker they have is the newly acquired Dejan Jevelevic, with the 19-year-old costing £3.5 million from Red Star Belgrade. The Serbian under-21 international scored 14 goals in 28 appearances over the last 2 seasons since his debut in December 2017. But as it stands, he seems little more than a prospect. The rest of the side remains largely the same, including keeping hold of Filip Kostic, who provided 10 assists from the wing last season. The 26-year-old though may struggle to hit double figures again if he hasn't got anyone worthwhile to aim at in the penalty area. So that was our top 10 of the teams with the worst transfer business so far, but it is only so far. It could all change before the August deadlines. Let me know what you guys thought of our selections in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.